Golf Central on YouTube is brought to you by the new Paradigm Woods and Irons from Callaway.
Hi, I'm Amy Rogers, and this is your Golf Central update. What a week it was for Scottie Scheffler, our 2023 Players Champion. Scottie fired a final round 69 en route to a 5-shot victory. And with his win, Scottie Scheffler became the third Texas Longhorn to win the Players, joining Tom Kite, who won in 1989, and Justin Leonard, who accomplished the feat in 1998. Earlier on Golf Today, Justin Leonard joined Eamon Lynch and George Stavroukis to discuss that win in 1989, as well as Scottie's performance last week.
It feels like a long time ago, to be honest. I mean, some of the memories are very vivid. Others are a little bit fuzzier. My kids last night, as we watched the tournament finish up, heard Scottie Scheffler say, yeah, we're going to celebrate as a family, this and that. My kids are like, Dad, what did you do? I said, well, let's see. I did all the kind of media obligations and volunteer stuff. And I got on an airplane and flew home. They're like, oh, was Mom with you? I said, no, we hadn't met each other yet. Was anybody with you? No, and then what'd you do? I said, I think I just kind of unpacked and got cleaned up and went to sleep. I didn't have much of a celebration. But it's certainly worthy of a celebration, that's for sure, winning the Players' Championship.
There's something about Texans who just don't know how to party, George. But Justin, that final day in '98, you were 5 behind Lee Johnson going into the final round. He had a 3-stroke lead over Glenn Day. By the time you got to that closing stretch of holes, Len Matisse was on the 17th tee and had something of a catastrophe there. Do you always have the mindset that no lead was safe for any leader on that golf course before you headed out that day?
Absolutely. With the swings that can happen on the back nine, there's certainly eagle opportunities. There's also opportunities for disaster. And until you reach the 18th green, nothing ever feels safe. As Len was playing 17, I was in group behind, and I had to lay up on 16. So I was kind of getting ready for my third shot, and I could hear, I wasn't really watching, but I could hear what was going on over on 17. I saw him hit it in the water, and then saw that he hit his third shot, I guess, in the water. And at that point, I knew that I didn't need to do anything special. I just need to stay dry and try and make 3 pars on those last 3 holes.
For Scottie Scheffler, who won his first major last year, and then in saying winning the Players, he said the week kind of feels like a major just with the caliber of player that you're going up against. It was similar for you. You won the 97 Open, then you follow that up the next spring in winning the Players. What did the achievement of that week provide for you on the heels of having the claret jug?
For me, it was a little bit of backing up my major championship. Scottie Scheffler, he's reached number 1 in the world. He's number 1 in the world again. I don't think he didn't need to validate anything. But for me, the Open Championship was my 3rd victory. But to turn around the next year and win the Players, I felt like I did need to validate it a little bit. And then just being able to go back for so many years as a Players Champion, it's very special. It's a great venue. The only thing it really favors is whoever's playing the best. There's no real style of play, I think, that, complements the golf course. It's a great test. It lets you know exactly where you stand. And as we talked about, the pressure coming down the stretch, trying to win that tournament, it is major championship level pressure, that's for sure.
Justin, we can see that claret jug just over your left shoulder there from Royal Troon in 1997. You were 5 behind heading into the final round that day as well as you were at the Players the following year. In those kind of pressure environments, is there something to be said for being the chaser rather than the guy who was, as Scottie Scheffler was yesterday, trying to hold on to that lead?
Eamon, I was always more comfortable chasing. Only one time in my career did I have, a couple times really, but one time in my career I had a big lead, and it was the most uncomfortable round I ever played. It was in Memphis at the FedEx St. Jude. I think I had a 5 or 6 shot lead. I ended up only winning by a stroke. I much prefer coming behind. And the real key, if you are coming behind, is that you don't have to pass a lot of people. Both times at the Open, at the Players, when I was 5 back, I was in the next to last group. So I only had 2 players ahead of me. And certainly that's much easier to to overcome than being 5 shots back but having 20 players out in front. So it was a good situation for me in that I had to be aggressive and attack the golf course in both cases. And in both cases, I got off to a good start and then played really well through the middle of the rounds. A little bit like Scottie did, but his was more separating himself, where I was still just trying to catch the leaders with that stretch.
With the win, Scottie Scheffler has 6 PGA Tour wins his last 13 months. As you look at the young American stars that are, say, under 30, with Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, they're already basically rubber stamped as Hall of Famers with what they've done so far. And then you have the next tier, say Patrick Cantlay, Colin Morikawa, and you throw Scottie Scheffler in the mix. Do you think Scheffler could emerge from the pack, or are we going to see a lot of these guys who kind of carry the mantle with incredible stretches like this that are hard to sustain beyond a year or two?
I don't think anybody really. These top players are so good. It's really hard to really gain a lot of separation over such world-class players. I think this is the game is in such a great state right now with so many great storylines. Not only at these elevated events where we've seen, John Rahm won a couple, now Scottie Scheffler, but even thinking back to the Honda Classic and the great story of Eric Cole, battling down the stretch with Chris Kirk. The tour's in a great place. And yes, there's a lot of change going on right now. But even though there's those events where maybe most of the best players aren't there, it's still compelling golf week in, week out. And, it's fun to be now a fan of the PGA Tour and not playing it and competing against those guys. But it's certainly exciting to watch.
Well, the rewards have changed a lot as well, Justin. When you won the Players 25 years ago, you got a check for $720,000. Yesterday, Scottie Scheffler got one for $4.5 million. What do you think now when you see this, the scale of reward that's out there on the PGA Tour, but also the schedule changes that's happening now with designated events? Are you a fan of what you see?
I don't really know yet whether I'm a fan or not. I think I am, because the best players in the world are going to play together more often. Say, if you go back 8 to 10 years ago, it was the major championships, the WGCs, which are no longer in existence, and maybe a couple others like Bay Hill and Memorial. And now we're going to get to see the best players in the game playing together much more often. But I also have an eye on those fields that aren't designated, that, yes, they've got the great storylines, but can those sponsors and communities continue to provide all that they do charitable-wise, even when they don't have some of the best players in the world? And these designated events, especially next year, I think there's going to be 15 or 18 of them. So the top players really aren't going to play many of the other events, if any at all. And so I hope and feel for those tournaments that maybe aren't in that upper echelon, because every week on tour is special. It may not have the best field, but the impact that they have on their community and the charitable contributions every week is important. And so I just hope that those tournaments are able to find ways to continue pushing forward and thinking outside the box on how they can still have that same effect on their communities.